Hey y'all, so this is my first video about poetry. So today we're going to be talking about terms and definitions. So in order to understand how to write poetry, you have to understand, you have to break it down to its core. You have to break it down to what makes it what it is. So just to give you like an idea, I'll list some of the things I'm going to be talking about in the video. So I'm going to be talking about the concept of using concrete versus abstract language, meter versus rhythm, assonance, consonance, and alliteration, and the different types of rhymes. So let's talk about this concept of using abstract versus concrete language. This is what I mean when I say this. When you describe something in an abstract way, you fail to fully develop it as a concept or an emotion, or if you're telling it in a concrete way, you're providing specific examples for the reader to more easily grasp what you're saying. So some examples of like typical abstract things you hear, words like love, hate, pain, these are common, but really they're very vague emotions if you think about it. And I'm sure the reader, though they've probably felt love, pain, hatred in some form, if you're able to provide a specific example of a time when you felt that way, it has something that the reader can more connect to more, and also something that shows what it means for you, which is also more interesting because it's your poem. Like I said, poetry is really an expression of your emotions. So yeah, let me see. Let me give you an example. So let's say I was writing about somebody who I was in a relationship with, and I said I love him very much. I love him very much. That is abstract. It fails to, like I said, fully develop what I mean. So instead of saying that, I would provide a specific example of either something he did that made me love him, or like kind of describing time that we spend together, something that we do together that shows my love for him, or something that I've done for him that shows my love for him, right? So instead of saying I love him very much, I might say, he cradles me in his rose petal arms. I find home here. He soothes me with his words, sweet like honey, right? So that's rough. I know it's kind of on the spot, but hopefully you understand like what I was getting at. It's concrete because it's a specific example, and it appeals to the five senses. That's another thing. It appeals to the different senses, as well as using figurative language. I use the simile, sweet like honey. That's a simile. Rose petal arms. That's a metaphor. Clearly, his arms are not really made out of rose petals, but it gives you more of a picture, more of an image to go off of, and hopefully you can understand what that means to me more. So another thing about using concrete versus abstract, it helps you avoid cliches. Cliches are things that you just are overused. You've heard so many times it loses its meaning. Things that you just hear so much, it becomes corny and unoriginal. So one thing that's important about poetry is originality. As an author, as a poet, each poet individually should have their own distinct voice, right? Their own tone, their own voice, their own style. That's very important about being a poet as well, and making your work stand out and something that people want to read because it's you in all aspects. It is, you capture the essence of yourself in the poetry when you use concrete versus abstract. So there's that. Let's cover meter and rhythm. So meter and rhythm refer to the music of your poetry. When I say the music of your poetry, I mean like how it flows, how it sounds, and you know what rhythm is. But I'll give you a textbook definition of rhythm. Rhythm is a variable but nevertheless recognizable pattern of strong and weak elements in a poem. So the rhythm is, you know, the beat of it, how the words sort of flow together. Also, I use that definition from this textbook right here, Creative Writing, 4 Genres in Brief by David Sarkey, just so I don't get, you know, plagiarism or nothing like that, copyright issues. But yeah, meter is a regular pattern of accented and unaccented syllables. So meter refers more to the syllables themselves. Accented or unaccented is the same thing as stressed or unstressed. So, for example, it just follows like the way we speak regularly when we say, for example, the word apple, right? One syllable is stressed and one is unstressed. Which is stressed when you say the word apple? You wouldn't say apple. That doesn't even sound right. You would say apple. So you stress ap, and pull is unstressed. So meter just refers to that, and rhythm is more like the overall music of your poetry, the overall sound, strong and weak elements. So there's meter versus rhythm. Let's talk about consonance, assonance, and alliteration. So alliteration, I'm sure you guys have probably heard of alliteration. It's just the similar beginning each word with the same letter. So 7 slithery snakes is an example of alliteration, right? That same consonant sound or vowel sound at the beginning of each word, each following word. So it's a repetition. All of these are examples of like repetition. So consonants is typically it typically relates to the end of words. So it's similar. It's basically similar consonant sounds at the end of words. So if you have a pattern of words that end in T, then that would be an example of consonants. I'm trying to find the textbook definition for this one so I can just explain it in a little bit more depth and a little bit more detail for you guys. Let me see. I can't find it, y'all. I'm sorry, but yeah, basically a repetition of ending consonant letters. And then assonance is the opposite. So assonance is a repetition of vowel sounds. So basketballs and asphalt. You have the alt, ball, and then basket, ass. So it's like similar vowel sounds, if that makes sense. And that's repetition, a repetition of that. So consonants, assonance, and alliteration provide like it helps move along the overall rhythm, like I said, and flow of the poem itself. And it's also more appealing to the reader. It pulls the reader in a little bit more, and it's more fun than just, you know, it helps the overall flow of your poem. So those are the importance. That's the importance of those. And then let's talk about rhyme schemes. So we have different types of rhymes, and then we also have different rhyme schemes. So let me just go over the different types of rhymes right quick. So you have a perfect rhyme, where it's literally like the same. Hold on, let me find it. Sorry, I'm looking in this book right now trying to find it. Probably should have did this ahead of time. but it's all just right here within these couple pages. So rhyme, the definition of rhyme is a correspondence of sound in two or more words. All right. So let's talk about the most common types that people use. So we have a perfect rhyme, which is like fluffy, stuffy, dead, red. The correspondence between the two rhyme sounds is exact. So it's like exactly the same. Like I said, fluffy, stuffy, basically the same. You have a single rhyme. So we refer to masculine rhyme as a single rhyme. Falling rhyme is rarity, unpopularity. Triple rhymes, so those are triple rhymes because they both contain arity. So those arity, those are three syllables that are, contribute to the rhyme. So that would make it a triple rhyme. And then you have polysyllabic rhymes. Rhymes of more than one syllable. So multiple syllables in the words rhyme. Slant rhymes. The vowel sounds may be either similar or significantly dissimilar, and the rhymed consonants may be similar rather than identical. So let me break that down for you. Slant rhymes are kind of loose rhymes. They're not exact rhymes at all. The consonants should be similar or exact, and the vowel sounds can be similar but don't have to be similar at all. And then an internal rhyme occurs within a single line of poetry. So the example that they provided is, I can't wait to be late for my date. Internal rhymes is used extensively in hip-hop, so much so that many writers of literary poetry have lately begun to shy away from it. So, yes. So an internal rhyme is a series of rhymes within a line. Yeah. So that concludes. Actually, no. Let me touch on one more thing. Let me speak on lines and stanzas. So poems are written in stanzas. Stanzas are a compilation of lines or verses. So a line of text, like various lines of text combined into a chunk of text separated by spaces. So that's why poems are written. They look different than, say, a prose. They look different than a story. They look different than an essay. They have their own structure, which is stanzas. So in free verse, you have a lot of freedom when it comes to line breaks, stanzas, and a lot of other poetic forms. They have rules about that. But yeah, so that's just like the basics of the structure of poetry. It's written in stanzas, and that's what a stanza is. But yeah, okay, so that concludes the first video. Thank you for watching. Please comment if you still have questions about anything that I covered, and I'll be sure to respond to the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching.